Good afternoon, I'm Mark Hyman from Greensboro, North Carolina. Welcome to Dentsply Sirona 2017 Legends Panel. I'm just honored to be here. When I look around the table here, I feel like I'm at Mount Rushmore. You've got the Hall of Fame of dental CAD/CAM, just important thought leaders and inspirational people, and I'm just honored to be here. As I go around, we're honored having Dr. James Clem here from Santa Rosa, California, Dr. Rich Rosenblatt from Lake Forest, Illinois, got Dr. Todd Ehrlich, who's from Austin, Texas, got Dr. Mike Scramstad from Minneapolis area, and the famous Dr. Sam Puri, USC Trojan, Fight On, who's at the Scottsdale, at Spear in Scottsdale, and also was a co-founder of CEREC Docs, and just a tremendous thought leaders. Again, my CEREC journey started 20 years ago. I was a CEREC 2 user. One of my favorite patients, I did a quadrant of partial crowns, provisionals broke 3 times, and the wife said, when I saw her, she needed care, and she said, well, I can't come back 3 or 4 times. So I knew there had to be a better way. So as we think about your CEREC journeys, gentlemen, Dr. James, how'd you get into CAD/CAM dentistry?
I was teaching at LVI at the time, and one of my colleagues there, Lee Culp, said, I was thinking of getting a pressable oven or furnace, and Lee said, why don't you just get CAD/CAM, CEREC? And I said, well, I'm not sure that's the direction I want to go. And he goes, that's what I use in my lab. That was good enough for me. I went home, called Patterson, and said, I'm ready to sign a contract.
That's been.
I had to talk them into it. They're going, well, wait a minute, we need to take you through a series of events to make sure it's what you want. I go, no, I'm home, baby, and I've been home ever since.
That's tremendous.
That's awesome.
Was that CEREC 2 or 3D?
That was 3D, because I only think in 3D. 2D, I don't work with that too well.
I tried.
But
I
you
didn't
do.
work well,
You
I
do.
tried. Rich, how'd you get into CAD/CAM dentistry?
I was working as an associate from 99 until about 2007, and we had a really progressive office at the time. And I remember going to the Chicago Midwinter meeting, and they launched it. I'd seen it in dental school, and all the CEREC 2 and CEREC 3. All of a sudden, we saw it like there with that thing spinning around on the screen. I'm like, oh my God, how do you not do that? And so you want to talk about legends, Jeff Butel, if you remember Jeff, who practices near me, and Jeff allowed us to come to his office, and we watched a live patient be done in about 55 or 60 minutes, and from start to finish, I was like, all right, this is done. We signed our contract right then, and that's 14 years ago, and I haven't, the journey from doing that to joining CDocs has been amazing.
Amazing. Dr. Todd, how'd you get into CEREC?
I probably got it in the wrong way. I bought it without my wife's permission, so don't ever do that, first and foremost. But I used to hand make my own partial coverage restorations. So I did one visit dentistry, but I did it completely analog, and I did that for 4 years. I used an oven, I'd stack it, put it in about 4 hours, I'd have this little dinky onlay ready for the patient, and I discovered the power of one visit dentistry. Even though I didn't have the technology, I already discovered that people want it completed in one visit. And the other advantage to it was that I didn't have to remove as much tooth structure because I didn't need so much mechanical resistance retention form. I didn't need to make it temporary. And then next thing I know, I had a demo kind of like what you did. And then I was like, I had to have it. So I got off the couch about 3 weeks later with my wife's not unapproval of the purchase, but we're good. We're okay now.
I'm glad. Therapy worked.
Yeah.
Dr. Mike, what was your CEREC journey?
Mine was more the traditional way. I was asked by my Patterson rep if I wanted to go to an event, one of the sales events at the time, and I said sure. I didn't really know anything about it. This is in 2003, and within about 5 minutes of being there, I'm like, I have to have that. I have to have that. And the other reason I thought it was important for me at the time was I was a young dentist, just 3 years out of school. As young as I look now at 43, imagine how young I looked at 26. So I was thinking I needed a way to distinguish myself. I was a young, inexperienced dentist, so I figured that was a way that I could be the young, inexperienced dentist with all the new technology, right? So I thought that was a good idea, and it worked just like I thought it would, and it's been a great ride ever since.
That's tremendous. Sam, again, I know you helped co-found CEREC Docs and the Townie meeting. You were practicing in Southern California.
SoCal.
What happened?
I grew up in a family of computer manufacturers. My uncles, all of my uncles, they had a very large computer manufacturing company. All the sales were done in the US. Sales and marketing, manufacturing was in India. So I grew up building computers and around that industry. And just as I was going through my residency, I still remember to this day at the University of Tennessee, our dean at the time, we went to the Mid-South meeting, which was the local dental meeting, and there was the CEREC 2, and he said, if I was in practice, I'd get me one of them CERECs, and that kind of stuck in my head, and I got into practice, I got me one of them CERECs, and that's how it worked.
Tremendous. When we think about pitfalls as we got into CAD/CAM dentistry, for me, everybody said, don't do it. My accountant said you can only depreciate $17,900. No one, I was the second person in North Carolina. My deciding moment is my dad. I explained it to him, one visit, no impression, no temporary. I said, Dad, what do you think? And he said, son, why would you do it that way? People are used to coming in for 2 visits. So I bought it. Dr. Jim, did you have anything like that happen?
Well, it's a little different. In fact, when I think of Todd, with my wife, I had to convince her. So I go, look, honey, I'll give you half. 50% of the savings goes into your account. And my overhead went down 10% in the first year. It was very profitable for my marriage. But getting back to CAD/CAM, what I wanted was control.
Right.
I've always had an interest in ceramics. And being part of the ACD and doing a ceramic-based type of practice and conservative like Todd does, I wanted that control. So the evolution of CAD/CAM in me has just been symbiotic. I mean, it's natural for me. I like to control. I think Sirona has been a great company. Think of where we are now compared to where we were even 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
It's a practice style, becomes a lifestyle. And I'm very appreciative for that journey because I've been practicing 34 years and I feel like maybe I'm just now coming into my sweet spot. So I have to stay healthy so I can go another 20. Because when you enjoy what you do and you can stay in the passion of your life, you just have a better life, you have more joy, you pass it on to others, get acquainted with great educators like this. There's nothing like it.
It's just good stuff.
Yeah.
Rich, did your colleague try to talk you out of CEREC dentistry?
No, he was a pretty technology forward guy. I mean, when I started working there in 99, we were paperless in 99. I mean, he really was trying to do everything cutting edge. When I fast forwarded to 2007, when I bought my practice, I bought a practice. It was a very tiny practice in sort of a boutique town in the northern suburbs of Illinois, right on Lake Michigan. So there was no land to build. So there was not a lot of new people moving in there. I bought my practice and I bought my CEREC on the same day.
Wow.
Because I knew I needed to be that guy who came into the town that had to do something different, because we had about 10 homes on average selling in my town per month, and we had about 23 dentists in my town. So I needed to do something for those 10 new people moving in to want to go to me over the other 10, because how do you grow a practice? I need patience. So I did that to really as a distinguishing factor for, kind of like Scrammy said. The lucky part was I already had that, the training and stuff, so I went in ready to roll, knowing how to use it, so I really could distinguish myself in that end.
Todd, when you think about that, did you have anybody try to talk you out of it, or you were kind of your own?
Yeah, my wife, she was not real happy about it, but no, I tried to talk myself out of it multiple times because I already had my process down, much like all.
You were already successful.
Yeah, I was already doing something successfully, even though in my own mind I didn't really know it was not very efficient, but the patients were happy, and I think that's really the mindset that a lot of our colleagues have that don't get into CAD/CAM dentistry. They get so used to doing it the same way, and we've all heard it. Oh, my patients would never accept that. Oh, really? I bet if we went in there and asked their patients if they'd accept it, they'd probably accept it. So
absolutely.
It was my own roadblocks, and just like anybody else.
Mike, as you went through it, I know I had patients say to me, "Are you old enough to do this to me?"
Yeah.
I'm amazed you have a beard. I didn't think you shaved. I carded him. I don't think you're old enough to be here, but
That's why he has a beard.
I understand that. What with your journey, did colleagues support your decision, or did they try to resist it?
I tend to be a little bit impulsive maybe when I buy things. So I bought it so fast that I didn't give anybody a chance to talk me out of it.
Right.
So I signed the contract right then and there. Only then did I start to think about what did I just do, right? And so I had a partner. I still have a partner. Carl Berg is his name, and he supported it because it was just the right time. We just built a brand new office. We just invested in brand new digital X-rays. It just was the right time to introduce it. So I didn't really have a lot of pushback. My wife doesn't really pay attention to what I do at work, so she doesn't understand that kind of stuff or doesn't care to even pay attention to it. So years later, and I don't think I realized the advantages of what CEREC brought until later, right? As I watched our new practice evolve, I think it evolved because of CEREC. Yeah.
Sam, when you left Tennessee, you went back to Southern California,
Yeah.
but you were by yourself?
Yeah, I bought a small practice.
So your decision was your own?
It was my own. And it's a good discussion. And we've all have the people that we've dealt with we've all done lectures to prospective buyers saying, hey, you should buy a CEREC. And also the discussion on the internet, hey, I don't know if the ROI is quite there. And you get into these little minutia, but we step back and think about it for a second. Okay, we all have things that we're passionate about. Okay, my passion right now, I have 1,000-gallon. We built a house in Scottsdale, and I have 1,000-gallon saltwater fish tank in my house.
Wow.
Now I won't even go into what that cost because it was an off-budget item. You guys know how that works. But I don't really care what it costs because, to me, the joy that it brings me and my girls who help me feed the fish and clean the tank, and we do it all together. It's amazing. So, except when you go to your office, some people treat that like a prison. Instead of saying, this is my home. I forgot, somebody else said that this morning. Your office is your home. Why would you not want to do something you're gonna have fun with? You're gonna spend a lot of time there, right? And so we get into this little minutia of, is the ROI there? I did my analysis and I spent 18 months looking at it and I think I'm gonna lose $4 a month. It's like, who cares? Just enjoy it. You got to go to work and you got to look forward to it. So no, nobody tried to talk me out of it, and I've tried to talk many people into it. And I'm sure you guys have had the same experience here. People are coming up to me, man, I'm so glad I listened to you 4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm loving life. What a great
Or I wish I
feeling
didn't
that
wait.
is.
I wish I wouldn't have waited so long. That was the biggest.
Wonderful thing.
Exactly.
My biggest regret is I wish I would have done it earlier. That's what I hear all the time.
Yeah.
When I've had the privilege of going to Spear and studying or a CEREX doc course or learning from all of these gentlemen, it's amazing when you see people you'd expect, young folks like these guys, and you see folks in their 60s and 70s who probably were burned out of dentistry and thinking they were going to go do something else.
Theo.
And now they're reinvigorated and re-energized, and I think each of you should be proud of how you've inspired and motivated a generation of dentists to move forward and stay in dentistry, and the patients really benefit from that. When you think about materials, to me, so I started with CEREC 2 in 1997. All we had was Mark II blocks, and what were we using for cement? Super glue? I didn't even know, but Dr. James, how's material changed your career?
Well, I was into Impress before I got into CAD/CAM. I have a strong client base that wants metal-free dentistry.
Right.
So I've had to navigate that journey in most of my career, and it's worked very well. I never threw away the rubber dam. I didn't have rejection issues with that. So CAD/CAM was a natural for me. So I went from a pressable to a millable. So since then, we have Emax, that lithium disilicate's made a huge difference. You now have other companies providing similar type of products. We now have zirconia. I would say now, there's nothing I can't mill that I could press, particularly with the current system. So the material base is not a limiting factor as it was when I started. We've just kind of grown with that material factor to give us more predictable success. And I cannot imagine how you can't practice without this.
Yeah.
In fact, if I couldn't practice without it now, I'd probably look for a different profession.
I understand that.
I'm serious.
Rich, what have you seen materials do? How's that impacted your career choices now?
Number one, to be able to when you started and we had glass ceramics and we're putting them kind of all over the mouth, and if you didn't prep enough or you didn't, you had a bonding, those things could break a little easier. Now all of a sudden, you see these more forgiving materials that allow you to kind of maybe overcome something that might be slightly under-prepped, and so you have these longevity. I mean, things like Emax really changed the game, and now you're bringing zirconia and the fits that we're getting, and the aesthetics and everything that it brings. We teach so many people, and we talk to so many dentists that don't have the technology that want to ask our opinion, and they're always say, well, I'm not going to use this because I only use zirconia, and I just tell them, it's all here now. There is no excuse other than people don't like change. I mean, that's really the big thing I find. And so along the lines with the materials, you embrace them as they go along, and they really kind of allow your career and your practice to just grow and expand and do so many different things than you could do like the 20 years ago when you kind of were a pioneer in this thing.
Got you. James, what you've seen dentists say, well, I only do gold here because it's the best material. How do you answer that when you're teaching?
Man, I wish you hadn't asked me that question, because I think gold is not the best material for teeth.
What?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to lose my license now that I just said that.
Heresy.
Well, it's radiopaque. You can't see recurrent caries underneath it. And I'll ask you, what is a gold restoration that's 20 years old you just happen to take out? Does it look perfectly clean? No, it's mushy.
It's perfectly decayed.
It's perfectly decayed. And so I think the idea that gold is the best material for teeth, because we as an industry let it last too long. Because by the time it does get bad enough to come out, now it's all of a sudden root canal or whatever. If that same amount, a little bit of decay or staining happened on a composite or one of our ceramics, how fast would we replace it or repair it?
Absolutely.
And so what I love about being in the CAD/CAM world, especially with materials today, that we can repair in the mouth. And so we're now launching, I think, this new idea of a living restoration. Meaning we put a restoration in, and what about 10 or 12 years from now, we could repair it. You know, there's a step to that restoration. Gold, we're not repairing. You're cutting that out and doing something else. So I really think gold may be a disservice for our patients, and I'll give my license back here in a minute. Okay,
We'll take
sorry.
a bullet for you. I hope they miss. Mike, you feel
I'm just
pressure
trying to
from the
duck. I don't want to get hit
manufacturers?
by anything that's like somebody throwing stuff at me.
As a master educator, do you feel pressure from the different manufacturers to try the latest, greatest material?
I wouldn't say pressure, no, and I think we've made it very clear, all of us, that we're going to use everything. It's our responsibility to understand all the different materials. So, yes, I do try everything, but I'm just like everybody else. I have a clinical practice, and you know the materials that have worked for you. And although I try new materials, I tend to stick with what has worked and what I know is going to last. I think the most important thing as the materials evolved, I think it's almost kind of matches my evolution as a dentist. I've become a better dentist because I understand materials better, I understand preparations better, I understand what material works where and why, and unfortunately some of that is because of the failures you've had doing things that you shouldn't, which we've all had, and so I think that my career's evolved with the materials and my understanding of them.
Sam, as the Jedi Master here, do you feel that you have to be the first person to try the newest materials to give the CEREC doc's opinion on it?
No, I mean, you got to be familiar with it, actually. And, I'll go to say that the evolution of the dental materials for CEREC has been, as an educator, the worst thing ever. I mean, I hate it. It's horrible. I used to have to talk about one block, maybe two. Okay? Now we've got all these different materials, and obviously I say that jokingly, but is there pressure? No. Do people look to this panel and these doctors for their opinion? Sure. But I think we're at a point now where I think there's a lot of good materials. There's not one material that's going to fit every single need. I think certainly the future of materials where they're headed is more towards zirconia.
Right.
As we get more and more translucent zirconia, 35 years ago, whatever it was when CEREC was first invented, probably taking glass and then grinding on it the diamond was not the most ideal way to make a restoration. It's just with the technology that we had at that time. But I think the future is very bright. We've got great materials now and even better ones coming out in the future. But we still have a lot of good stuff that we don't need to rush into everything new.
Right.
Be familiar with it, know it, ease into it if it fits your needs.
Gotcha. For me, being in full-time private practice, I found early in my career patients say, you must be really good. You've got all this equipment. And I thought, anybody could buy it. It doesn't mean that you're good at all. But for me, what I found, first my lab was going to be all upset that I had a CEREC machine. I found my lab bill went up because patients saw one beautiful CEREC restoration, like, well, can you do my front teeth? Can you do 10 of these? So, Dr. James, what did you find your relationship with your lab? How did that impact?
Well, I'm a very loyal person, and that was a consideration because you get connected. I had a lab technician that worked with me for 15 years.
Right.
And yet when I integrated, I was driven more about me becoming more matured and getting what I wanted. And you still can respect the relationship with laboratories. In fact, they're still my mentors in many ways. A lot of the new techniques I use and apply clinically, I learned from those that do it every day. Right. So I think there can be a community, a camaraderie, and the lab technicians that have embraced this technology are thriving as far as that goes. But there is a moment of element, and I think we've all had to address that because dentists as a whole are very loyal people.
Right.
That's why I like hanging out with them.
Understand that. Rich, what'd you see with your lab? Did your lab bill go up or down?
My lab bill is definitely down compared to where it was, but it's not non-existent. I definitely use my labs. I'll give 2 lab stories. When I first got my CEREC machine back in '03, the lab I was using was a lab out in California, a guy named Sean Keating, really funny guy, and I remember being about 5 or 6 months into my journey, and I get a phone call from Keats, who's kind of a buddy from Dentaltown, and he goes, Rosenblatt, you get one of them CEREC things? And I go, I know, Keats, my lab bill's down, but I'm still sending you stuff. And he goes, I don't care about the lab bill. I can tell by your preps. And that was like a big, oh my God moment. He goes, I can tell when the guys are using CEREC. And that was like a big, I was really impressed to hear that. That was pretty awesome. But I use a lab now who I just love. It's a small lab out in the middle, in Maryland somewhere. Derek Staggs, great guy. And when you use a lab that does CEREC, you guys speak the same language. When you use a lab tech other times, you're just sending them a shade and something, and you're not aware of the process. I'm fully aware of every aspect of the process, so I know what to ask for, what I want. They know what they want from me. There's better dialogue and communication, and the instantaneous aspect of the digital, getting things back faster. I think that my relationship with my lab is as strong as it's ever been comparative to what it was before because of how tight-knit that relationship is with them because of how we speak.
Right, I understand that. Todd, what was your experience there? Did your lab get mad at you?
Well, I never really had a lab.
Because you were your lab.
Yeah, I've always been my own lab technician. So
all right.
The way I look at it is I have complete control, and I want to do it all. I like it. I don't mind. Dentistry is my golf. So, if I want to have fun, I'll go to my office on Sunday night and go make something. So that doesn't bother me.
We need to speak to your wife.
All right, well, she goes and plays golf. I gotta pay the bills. But as far as bills go, I bet if I looked at my lab, I still use a lab. But if I looked at my lab bill over, let's say, the last 10 years, I bet it's not $25,000 total. And so what I love about the One Visit Dentistry is that I have all of the control of the clinical part of it, but the financial part of it too. And we have the freedom to use it however we want. Yep. So you might want to use it a little bit for your lab or a lot or completely. And it gives you the entire package.
Right, Mike, what'd you see? Lab bill up or down, impact?
I'm kind of like Todd. I don't really have a lab bill, or very, very minimal. But I didn't really have a huge relationship with the lab because I bought it so early in my career. So I would use a couple labs here and there, but not enough where I was like a very loyal client, I would say. I still do I use labs. I use them in unique ways. Virtual wax-ups, virtual printing, and things. I think I've learned to respect lab technicians a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because James and myself and Todd specifically, we make a lot of anterior restorations, and I know that for me to make something look really, really well, I mean, I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears into these restorations,
right.
And you really realize, like, man, that is a skill set that should be respected, especially with these really, really good technicians. So I respect the labs. I use labs, but like in unique ways, but everybody's different. And I think some people will realize that maybe some of the stuff that we do is not for them, and they still need that good relationship and respect with their technicians.
But I think that's the bottom line, is that the technology allows you to use as much or as little of the laboratory as you want to.
Right.
There are some users that say, I'm going to do my crowns, that's it. I have no desire to do implants, anteriors, whatever. And you're going to send it out to the laboratory. Others get all into it. There's no right or wrong. Everybody is different, and that's the great thing about technology, that you use it to what you're comfortable with. Now the reality is that, as much as we do inside, there are still going to be things that it's just doesn't make sense to do in chairside. I see people making aligners, and I don't know if anybody here is that's okay, it's good, but man, it's a lot of time. I don't know. Does that make sense? Send it to a lab. If you want to do it and you want control of it, great, you can do it. But it gives you the freedom to use the machine how it suits you best. There is no CEREC way of practicing. James, Rich, Todd, Mike, everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. And Todd's golf is dentistry. My golf happens to be golf, but that's a different
My golf is golf.
Well, CEREC allows you to play more golf.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but my point is we all have our different things that we love to do. And, treat your practice like your home. Like I said, you gotta go there and you gotta have fun. If you're not having fun, I mean, God, what's the point? Hang it up, man.
When you think about CEREC training in '97, Patterson sent in a trainer and he wouldn't let me or the team hold the camera. He did it all, and he did the designs like you got it and left, and we're like,
Well,
what was that? As I look here at Mount Rushmore, the level of training centers in Santa Rosa that you have in Austin, that you've got it out in Scottsdale, I've never heard of one of you ever say anything disparaging about anyone else. I think everyone's always said, look at all these great opportunities to learn. How have you seen dental education and CAD/CAM education change?
It's such an intricate part of our success. And fortunately, we've worked with companies like Patterson and Sirona, who's really been concerned about that and also considerate. When you think about when we started, it was like the Wild West. But that was an opportunity because I got started training in the Wild West.
Yeah.
And then as we've evolved, we've refined our steps. And when I think about being part of the educational system, it's great to even measure ourselves with one another, not in a bad way, because we've all grown. When I think about where we were 10 years ago and where we are now, and I listened to you yesterday, Mike, and I'm looking at what you're doing, and I'm saying, wow, we've really grown, and that's why I think CAD/CAM and the digital platform as a whole is really the sweet spot of dentistry today, because it allows us to use our gifts of why we went to dental school, and that's freedom. We want to be creative. We want to control our future and destiny, and I'll tell you, with the digital platform, it really changes the way you think. So even as educators, we have to educate. I mean, I work hard just to stay up. I mean, think of printing now.
Yeah.
I was over at the IDS. They're printing customized implants now, all from a digital platform. So the digital platform is going to drive, it's already driving, but it will definitely drive the future of dentistry, no matter whether you're printing, machining, intelligence of the software makes us better clinicians. That's what keeps me invigorated in dentistry, because I have to practice it. It's part of my personality type.
Yeah.
And I just have to say, I need to take more growth hormone so I can stay active in this field.
Love it.
Be young like these guys.
Rich,
I can use some growth hormone. That'd be great. I'll take whatever
I don't think
I'll
it's
pay
gonna
anything.
work. Rich, for training, for you as an educator, for you as a practicing doc, what?
Well, I mean, my training was really strange. I started out. There was no, James, we didn't have any of our training centers back when we got into 2003, so it was literally the Wild West. I started a study club back in '05 that turned into the largest study club probably in the world, but me or the one in San Diego, one of the two biggest that there is. We have 570 people in my study club.
Oh, wow.
And so it's been going on for 12 years nonstop. We've had great speakers come through the years, and then in '08, when Sam was growing, when him and Armin started the whole CDOCS thing, and we were, they asked me and the 6 other of our friends, and Mike and all of us to start as faculty. It really just started this thing that even before that, I remember the not the Sirona Speakers Academy, they had us as the certified speakers. So we were like friends before, so it was all good relationships. So what bad is there to say? We know how great they all were as trainers, and then now I look at, even from our side of just the 3 of us, being friends and being able to teach the way we do, I look at the way CDOCS Online has grown, the center, and now we have this East Coast facility that's being built out there, that CDOCS is going to be out in the Charlotte area doing kind of an East Coast version of that. So it's just, I can't even believe where this whole really growth thing has come for all of us, and there's so many great dentists and great personalities that you find what resonates with you, and you're going to learn something amazing from every one of them, and that's why I love what everyone's about, because we see the big picture rather than it as a competition, and that's why I consider everyone on this panel really friends of mine for a long time, and that's what makes our digital space very, very special as far as I'm concerned.
Love hearing that. I wish we could go on for hours, gang. We got about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to ask is, what else happened career-wise because of CEREC? What else did you get into? For me, for what I found for our patients, we kind of would do the triple crown. Everybody would get offered an Isolite. Everybody would use our DigiDoc intraoral camera to take a before, during, and after photo. And then we offered care credit to everybody. That's kind of the triple crown in our office. And it's just become a formula for success. For about a minute each, guys. What's one thing did CEREC then lead to other things in your private practice?
It changes the way you think about life,
right,
in your practice, and when you change your mind, you change your world.
Love it.
Well, it introduced me to about 17,000 like-minded people that raise the bar and allow me to strive for something that maybe I'm not doing now that I want to, and it created a friend network for myself that is irreplaceable in the world. My best friends in the world are not from where I grew up or where I went. They're my digital friends, and I can't be more thankful for what that's given me.
Love hearing that. Todd?
Without question, Galileos. Sarah drove me right into Galileos. It was not a question. My wife had no problem with it at this point, so she understood. And the power of being able to see in 3D, as we all know, we all have one, we've saved lives. I mean, it's not implants and everything, but the clinical ROI that our patients get out of it cannot be denied. And so I'm very thankful that it drove me into that 3D X-ray.
Dr. Mike?
I would say for my office, definitely it's implantology. Like when I was a dental student early in my career, I never really ever imagined that I would ever be placing implants. And I feel like CEREC led me into 3D, which led me into understanding implants better, which led me into getting the education to place the implants, which led me into placing implants every week. And so that's by far had the biggest impact in my practice, not even close.
For me, along with my colleagues on the panel, I'm proud to have changed the paradigm of where we are in terms of CAD/CAM today, because when we all got into it, people would look at us and say, you're getting one of those CEREC things?
C-Rex?
And there will be a time very soon where people will look at that and say, you don't have one of those CEREC things?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we all were able to contribute to that change along with Dentsply Sirona.
Love hearing that. For me, people have said to me, why do you want to go to these dental meetings and hang out with a bunch of dentists? Well, the fact is, what's a common thread? You got California, Illinois, Texas, Minnesota. Did I say that right? Minnesota. Arizona and Greensboro, North Carolina. What's the common thread? I think it's a curiosity, it's a positive spirit, it's a sharing, and it's not that we're hanging out with a bunch of dental people. To me, it's a bunch of like-minded, positive spirit, men and women of abundance instead of scarcity, men and women of seeing possibilities and enthusiasm for what we can do in dentistry. So, final quick thought.
It's an honor to be here with the legends, and I would challenge our colleagues to keep learning, be perseverant, have an attitude of gratitude about life, and you'll have a lot of happiness.
Love it.
Yeah.
Just exactly what he said. I can't believe I'm sitting on this stage right now, but it's been a great journey. I look forward to a lot more of it to see where things are going. It's a great time to be a dentist.
Todd?
Use CEREC to save 2 structure. We're cutting too much of it out. It's going down the drain. We don't need to do that anymore.
I think the common theme of this panel and my experience in this meeting is just that CEREC builds friendships, and I'm so happy to be at the meeting because I get to see my friends.
Sandy?
Don't do drugs, go buy a CEREC.
In that order. Dale Carnegie organization says 3 magic words: success leaves clues. What a highly successful men and women in dentistry do, they get a CEREC and they dance. Friends, I'm Mark Hyman from Greensboro, North Carolina. I want to thank you for your time and attention today.
Yeah.
Again, if you're not here at Dentsply Sirona World 2017, we hope we'll see you next year in Orlando. Thanks for your attention and time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody?
Okay.